Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Going Green webinar. My name is Stephen Perry. I'm a business advisor with the local enterprise office. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy morning to join us for this session. In terms of an agenda for today, I'll just quickly share with you. So we are looking at, first of all, I'll give a small introduction to myself and the support. I'll then talk a little bit about Europe Enterprise Network. I'll then pass over to Sophie Deans, who'll talk about our Green for Business and energy efficiency grants and all that entails. Ronan McIntyre from Max Deli in Letterkenny up on the high road will then talk about his experience of the programs. I'll then go through the application process for each, because I know sometimes that can be a little bit of a barrier or a reluctance for people. So hopefully that will help to alleviate any concerns that you have. And then, time permitting, I will have a final Q&A for any questions that anybody may have. And Sophie will be around too, and potentially Ronan as well, if anybody has anything on that front. So look, without further ado, I will kick on and talk a little bit about the Europe Enterprise Network in the first instance. Bear with me while I just get my slides. So the Enterprise Europe Network, rather, I'm presenting on behalf of my colleague John O'Hara, who is our network executive, along with Declan Fullerton in the local enterprise office in Donegal. So EEN, as it's abbreviated to, is the world's largest support network for innovative small and medium enterprises who have international ambitions, or as we'd also possibly say, maybe the world's best kept secret in terms of support for internationalization, because a lot of SMEs are not aware of it. And my colleagues have done a huge amount of work in recent times, and actually busy preparing an event tomorrow, a national event with international buyers for food type businesses. So the network itself, it comprises over 400 different bodies in terms of specialized private public sector bodies, regional government development agencies, economic chambers. We have the likes of Dublin and Cork Chamber in this country, professional associations, research institutes, and others. So it's I suppose very vast in terms of the range and breadth of different agencies who are involved in it. In terms of its reach, it goes actually significantly beyond the EU 27 countries. So you also have in North America, South America, parts of Asia, and Australia, New Zealand as well. So huge opportunities for SMEs who have ambitions to internationalize. In terms of how the network helps SMEs, so it helps across a range of different areas, primarily, but not exclusively, in terms of signposting around things like innovation, sustainability, which is part of the focus, obviously, for today, resilience, access to the EU single market, digitalization, internationalization, access to finance. Probably one of the big elements is in terms of business partnering. So if you are planning to look at one of those markets within the EEN, and you're looking at potentially sourcing supplier or trying to expand there is a huge opportunity within the network to avail of that. And I know that businesses already, both within Donegal and further afield, have done that and are doing it successfully at the moment in terms of partnering with others where there might be difficulty in sourcing elements of their supply chain, or in terms of growing their customer base. In terms of sustainability, it's about helping SMEs in terms of this transition to more sustainable business models. So, a number of elements in terms of signposting, in terms of helping, in terms of develop that sustainability plan. And as I mentioned, business partnering is one of the key areas in terms of helping the right fit for them in terms of worldwide business partners. Internationalization, as I've mentioned as well. So just helping with, I suppose, the elements of of support in terms of potential existing research, in terms of making that initial match, or partnering with some institutes or bodies in that market where the SME is looking to expand into. In terms of, I suppose, anybody who may be interested in finding out a little bit more or organising a meeting, I would encourage you to get in contact with my colleague, John O'Hara. I've left his details on the screen for anyone if you want to share. I will also put them in the chat box in a little moment. But yes, that's, I suppose, EEN. And yeah, if anyone has any questions at this point, welcome them, or if not, please feel free to follow up directly with my colleague, John O'Hara. I'll now pass you over to Sophie, who will talk more about our specific supports. So Sophie, yeah, you've got the screen and ready to go there. Thank you.
Lovely. Can everyone see that okay?
Yes, we can.
Super stuff. All right. Hi, everyone. I hope you're keeping well. So my name is Sophie. So I'm one of the consultants that Donegal Local Enterprise Office basically work with for the Green for Business programme. Look, this morning, it's not a lecture. I don't want you to walk away feel like I've just spoken to you for about 20 minutes on what you should be doing. I'd like instead, if it's, we can kind of attack this from a practical perspective, and kind of look at the way, look, how can you make your business more sustainable? Look, feel free to jump in, at any stage, really. Ask a question, raise a query. If you have a comment, please feel free to share it. It is being recorded, just bear in mind, so don't share anything too personal. But look, if you have anything you want to share, just jump in. In terms of, I suppose, this section of the talk today, look, we're going to just have a very holistic look at, I suppose, how to be green within your business, where you can kind of identify those areas that you can kind of improve. We're going to look at energy efficiency. That's the, I suppose, emphasis of this morning. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about financial supports for businesses. Look, the priority and the emphasis here is on the energy efficiency grant through the local enterprise office. But look, we do have a little bit of information on, I suppose, other funding available through SAI. I'm going to chat to you very briefly about some case studies, nothing too in deep, just about, look, what people have done, how they've kind of seen improvements in terms of quantitatively and qualitatively. I'm going to talk you through the Green for Business programme very broadly, even just so you know, look, energy efficiency is one thing, but we can do a couple of others. Then Ronan will take over and we'll have a little bit of Q&A afterwards then. So look, it's all very approachable. Nothing is too difficult. We're going to jump, I suppose, straight into it and kind of chat about, look, how can you actually grow green? I will say green and sustainability, the kind of key terms you hear, you will get sick of hearing them after the hour, but we have to use them. There's, I suppose, for lack of a better word. So look, in terms of where you can kind of start that process, the best place to start is usually at the beginning. So look at what, I suppose, key resources you need to produce your product or service, essentially. So get a really good, or try to get a really good understanding of your business's raw materials. It is kind of difficult, but what do you foresee the impact is by, producing a raw material that you need, or, removing it from its natural environment in the first place? Question whether or not you can obtain these materials in a more, I suppose, sustainable, ethical way. Is there any certification available, for example? Now, I know certification is difficult and it's not as easy as just saying get X, Y, Z, but do have a look into it, see what's available to you, and then you can make the decision afterwards on whether or not it'll suit your business. Have a look at where is your energy coming from? How is it produced? Are there any renewable alternatives? And what would, I suppose, be the hypothetical cost of switching over? Look, we always kind of say when we kind of start this journey, just get to know your suppliers, just begin that conversation with them. For a lot of businesses, you talk with them all the time anyway, but do get to understand, look, where they're getting their materials from. From that, you kind of have your inputs, but I suppose how are you using them, essentially? Look, are you using your energy as efficiently as possible? Kind of get to the hierarchy on how energy should be used in a little bit, but are you using it to the best of its advantage? Or can you alter the process in some way to produce, the same output, but save on things like water and energy? Can you reduce waste? And that is physical waste. And I suppose the other 8 different types of waste, understand where you're generating it, what type of waste is I suppose, are you generating? Where is it going? Can you reuse anything? Can you repurpose anything? Can you rematerialize anything? Understand your emissions and kind of understand how, by operating, how you impact the physical environment, not only around you, but then also kind of further afoot. And then finally, have a look at your outputs. So look, you will have a product or service at the end of it all, but I suppose, what else are you really left with? What is your impact, your positive impact or negative, on the community around you? Do you have, a stake in community well-being, or are you operating, purely for profit? Begin to question, if your business closed tomorrow, what would the impact be on the community around you? Is there no longer a meeting place for mums to meet for brunch, or is there no longer a place for, an affordable haircut? You can find, I suppose, opportunities to go green across the entire business process. And I understand it's tricky, but I suppose by breaking it up into those 3 key areas, you can kind of highlight 1 or 2 key, I suppose, aspects that you can kind of focus on. In terms of why, look, people have motivations for, doing anything. And the big thing with the Green for Business program, which we'll kind of chat about later on, is finding your motivation to basically act. And you'll find that for a lot of people, it is cost. It's associated with, the extortionate cost of energy and how to use it. Others, it's waste. Others feel like they could just be using less material, or they might feel that they could, have a more positive benefit on the community around them. Find whatever motivates you. In terms of a broader scale, look, climate change isn't new to anyone. I suppose you can, conjure up these almost apocalyptic images on the screen there, but the crux of the matter is, it is going to affect you in several ways, and we are already kind of seeing them. Stuff like rising temperatures, disruption of ecosystems, just, I suppose, the drastic shift in seasonal patterns. Community displacement is a big one now. Increased costs, again, and something that's really topical at the minute. There's no escaping it. That being said, you might also think of, environmentalists in a certain light as well, and you may view them as, extremists who, protests are massively inconvenient to you. And to be honest, you wouldn't be alone in thinking that. However, I suppose it's important that we do safeguard the planet in whatever capacity each individual is able to, no matter how big or small our business is, no matter how big or small our contribution is. Why does it, I suppose, to matter to the micros? I can kind of look in terms of your impact on, if you worldwide, your individual impact is quite small. You know that already. I suppose the reason we're kind of pushing this and trying to kind of get you on board the program is because I think it's something like 99% of all companies in like the non-financial sector in the EU are small, I think, to medium, and obviously micros are included in that. So it is really important, I suppose, that we do the best that we possibly can. Looking forward to the future, and I suppose a reason that we're kind of trying to get everyone focused on the green or sustainable path is the reporting landscape is going to change, essentially, and at the minute there's no way for that we're going to get around that. So look, I won't bore you with the legislation at the minute. I just want to bring something to your attention, which is CSRD, and as the Corporate Social Sustainability Report Directive. So essentially what it is it is a formalized document that basically outlines your non-financial impacts on the world around you across, I think, 12 different key areas. Now, look, at the minute, this is only affecting large enterprise. I think they have to have over 250 million and X million in turnover. But it will affect the micros and smalls as we get as we kind of go down the line. Smalls SMEs are going to have to report at the earliest 2026, but they do have the option to postpone that to 2028. At the minute, we're a little unsure of what way it's going to look like and how the micros will have to report on this. One of the big things that micro industries can do to, I suppose, get themselves ready for this landscape is to kind of get an idea of what their carbon footprint is, because that is one of the greatest quantitative figures that kind of tells everyone about your impact on the world around you. Again, I'm not going to go very in deep into the carbon footprint. Essentially, you can't manage it if you don't measure it. It is one of the, I suppose, in theory, easiest ways that you can kind of quantify your impact. And that is, I suppose, no matter the size of the business. I'm sure most of you know what the carbon footprint is in its simple terms, and I suppose as applicable to you as business owners, it denotes the quantifiable measure of greenhouse gas emissions, essentially, with a particular emphasis on carbon dioxide. Look, there is a multitude of different greenhouse gases that either exist, in nature, naturally, or through man-made's own hand. So look, there's stuff like carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, ozone, water vapor, fluorinated gases, HFCs, CFCs. There's loads of them. I'm not going to go into each of them. What I do want to, I suppose, just flag for the time being is something called a GWP, or it's your global warming potential. Not every gas that either exists naturally or is man-made drives global warming and does so equally. Ozone, for example, is actually really good when it's located in the stratosphere or the very outermost layer of the atmosphere, but a little bit closer to home and it's actually quite dangerous. In terms of, I suppose, notoriety, the bad boys, we're really talking about carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. So look, these are the ones that we are most concerned about in terms of a global scale. They have they're quite different from each other in Ireland and I suppose internationally as well. You will be aware that we kind of have a carbon tunnel vision, and we when we think about carbon and we think about greenhouse gases and global warming, we tend to focus on CO2. But there is a couple of others. They're all quite different. They all last for different lengths of time in the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide is several thousands of years, methane is 11, and nitrous oxide is 109. The reason I bring this up is each one of these, I suppose, has a different potential to basically trap heat, is what we're talking about. So if you think about one carbon dioxide molecule, and if you try and quantify, look, how much heat does this basically hold? The number is 1, essentially. So actually, not that bad. It's pretty much the lowest number you can get. The issue with CO2 is there's just so much of it, and it just lasts for so long, and we're kind of dealing with historic figures as well. But then we have stuff like nitrous oxide, which lasts in the atmosphere for over 100 years, and as you know, it's 300 times greater. So it holds heat at a 300 times greater capacity than CO2. Bearing in mind, I suppose, all of those different, gases, it gets really difficult to kind of put a quantifiable single figure on your actual impact. So we do have something that, to measure carbon footprint, essentially to get one singular figure out of, and it's called a carbon dioxide equivalent, or CO2e. In its simplest terms, I suppose, or as simple as we can kind of conceptualize it, it is a standardized, unit of measurement that expresses the total impact of all of those different greenhouse gases in terms of a single equivalent amount of carbon dioxide, considering, the varying GWPs or global warming potentials. It is completely necessary to provide a common and comparable metric to, assess overall contribution of these different gases, and it kind of just allows a more straightforward understanding of where things are coming from. In terms of actually calculating it out, look, I suppose we use the greenhouse gas protocol to calculate it, and put simply, they have decided in their framework that there's essentially 3 different ways that you produce carbon, or you produce greenhouse gas, and that is through stuff that you can control, stuff that you kind of control, and stuff that you don't control, essentially. So your scope 1 emissions are things that emission source and things that you basically directly operate and control. Maybe think of it away as things that you combust on site. So this includes, kerosene, natural gas, LPGs, diesel in an engine. What do you own and control? What are you making a decision to turn on? Scope 2 technically classed as an indirect emission. So these are emissions that are released basically from purchased energy, big one being electricity. So the reason they're kind of indirect is because the actual emissions is generated in another facility. Like your scope 3 emissions is essentially everything else up and down the value chain. It is everything from flights that you get to go to a conference, waste that you produce, water that you get in, employee commute, any assets that you lease, any investments. It is incredibly broad, and most businesses' emissions, you'll find that they're mostly coming from scope 3. It's a little bit harder to quantify, but that's where you find most of them are coming from. So we're kind of done with the carbon footprint. I know we have a tendency to kind of lose the room at that stage, so thanks for keeping with me, but it's something that we just have to kind of become familiar with now. It'll make it easier in the next couple of years. We're going to kind of shift over to, I suppose, the energy efficiency management kind of side of things, and how, I suppose, you as a business owner or even an individual can manage it more efficiently, and what can you, I suppose, introduce tomorrow. In terms of management, there is look, there's a broad framework. There's loads of frameworks that you can work towards. We generally look at the energy management hierarchy. It's a prioritized approach essentially to reducing cost and minimizing energy consumption. So this is regardless if you come in through the Green for Business program. This is how we approach energy for you, but it is also something that you can introduce tomorrow. The top priority with energy is to avoid consumption as much as you possibly can. Anything unnecessary, get rid of that energy use. In terms of what that looks like, this involves essentially identifying and eliminating waste, turning off equipment when not in use, and optimizing the process to use, I suppose, less energy and kind of resources just overall. Then we kind of look at energy efficiency. So I suppose once conservation measures are kind of in place, you focus on making existing processes and equipment, I suppose, as more energy efficient, essentially. So this may involve upgrading equipment, improving things like insulation, introducing technologies that reduce, I suppose, consumption, obviously while still maintaining the same level of output. It is how can we make this whole thing more energy efficient. And then the last we kind of look at is the introduction to, renewable energy and I suppose low carbon technologies. So look, after our conservation and efficiency efforts, consider kind of incorporating a technology or renewable energy source such as solar, wind, hydro. We work to the hierarchy. I suppose it's the combination of the three that has, I suppose, the most beneficial outcomes. But that is what we're working towards, and that is what you should be working towards as well. In terms of, I suppose, how it looks like to manage your energy as efficiently as possible, there's kind of 6 broad steps, I suppose, to kind of looking at it. It's not very daunting. I know a lot of it is just stuff that you would do naturally, but I suppose if we're talking about getting a structured, standardized approach to it, this would be it really. Step 1, always, analyze your bills, essentially know your spending habits. Take a closer look at the billing that you get. I know it's kind of sounds silly to say it, but you'd be surprised, especially with the cost of energy the way it was, how many people were just saying, look, I'll just pay it. I don't want to look at it. It upsets me so much I don't even want to look at it for any longer. But you need to start logging the details and patterns of how you're spending energy. You need to commit to this process thoroughly, and continue to analyze and monitor your energy use as much as you possibly can. Next is essentially identifying your energy using equipment. Know your gear, really. This one, look, it's an arduous task. You need to log the equipment that you have, know their energy ratings, estimate how long they're on each day, month, year. Do these estimates, match up with what you're seeing in your bills. For the big, I suppose, energy eating, consider, installing sub-meters if possible at all. From that, you start to analyze your collected data between the previous 2 steps and begin to spot opportunities. You've got your data here. Make a list of short, medium, long-term actions to cut down on energy use. What is top priority? What is the low-hanging fruit? Get your priorities in order, essentially. From this, you're starting to create an energy action plan. It's essentially just getting organized. List each action that needs doing, who's going to do it, when, do you have a timeline in place? Important at this stage, list any resources that you might need. Start with the easy wins, get the whole team involved as much as you possibly can. A good that we would say here is to set, specific measurable goals. Having a clear metrics kind of lets you know what you've nailed, essentially. And then we're talking about implementing everything. Let's go take action. Implement these action strategies that you've outlined. You have your list ready to go. Basically, start taking the steps. And the last thing, possibly the most important thing, is to continuously review, keep that momentum going. This is essentially, it's a habit. You might go great for the first couple of weeks, but it's important to keep that momentum continuously going. You need to review what's working and what's not. It's not energy management, I suppose. It's not a one-off thing. Make it a routine, whether that's weekly, fortnightly, monthly, quarterly. Just get that, I suppose, in order. Those kind of 6 steps, you will see energy costs reduce and become more sustainable, and generally efficiency kind of increases then. Okay, we're going to shift again, and I want to chat to you a little bit about the financial supports. I know all of this is great in theory. A lot of the time what businesses need is a little bit of capital or assistance. So look, there is a plethora of financial supports available to you. The one we're focusing on now is the Local Enterprise Office Energy Efficiency Grant, which is 50% funding on a listed energy initiative up to a maximum of €5,000. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes now. There's a couple of others available to you. These are all available from the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland, or the SEAI. Look, we're not speaking on behalf of them, but I just do want to signpost you to, I suppose, different financial supports that are available to you. The big one is the non-domestic microgrid scheme, so that is solar PV. Now look, up until I think the middle of last year, they were only allowing grants up to a maximum of a 6 kilowatt peak system. They have increased that drastically. Funding is provided anywhere from €900 to 100,000 essentially, and obviously the amount that you get is dependent on the system that you basically input. The next one is the Exceed grant scheme. So this scheme is for companies planning, a massive investment essentially, and planning an energy efficient design project. Grants are available for up to 70% for up to small businesses. Support scheme for renewable heat. So look, this is from SAI as well. It's designed to increase the energy generated from renewable sources in the heat sector, includes heat pump installation grant, and the operational tariff for biogas heating systems. I think that tariff goes up to a maximum of 8 years, if I'm right. ACA, that's a tax incentive encouraging investment in energy saving technology. And then the last one is the energy audit, which is a €2,000 voucher towards the cost of a professional energy audit. I do believe, though, that you do need to have an energy bill of more than €10,000 in a 12-month period. I'm nearly positive that's still the same number, but just double check that if it is something you're interested in. So look, I want to chat to you very briefly about the Local Enterprise Office Energy Efficiency Grant. And Stephen, if you want to jump in at any stage, go on ahead. Yeah. So look, the reason it kind of came about, it was introduced in May last year. It was kind of developed further to feedback from the LEOs, their clients, the green providers, identifying the need for basically financial support. So essentially what it is the support of the investment in technologies and equipment identified in a Green for Micro or Green for Business report, a Green Start report, or an SEAI energy audit, with a 50% of eligible costs up to a maximum grant of €5,000, and I do believe a minimum grant of €1,000. So look, it's open to all small and micro enterprises employing between 1 and 50. The only caveat is turnover has to be over 30,000 on an annual basis, and the business needs to be trading in excess of 6 months. You also, of course, can't be an IDA or an Enterprise Ireland client. Ineligible for the grant at the minute is, I suppose, if you're operating solely from a domestic or home-based office. Look, if you're operating in the coal or steel sector, if you're in primary agriculture, fishery, or aquaculture sectors. Other one is involved in any activities that the Local Enterprise Office considers an unacceptable reputational risk, is the way it's phrased. So essentially anything in the tobacco, adult entertainment, or cannabis industry is generally a no-go. In terms of eligible costs, look, I do want, I suppose, emphasize that this grant is in its pilot stage. There is no guarantee that it'll still be here, in 6 months' time, but there's also no guarantee that it'll exist as it currently is. I'm going to go through what is eligible now. At the minute, as far as I'm aware, there is no other section. This is just what is covered essentially in this grant. Meters, so electricity, gas, diesel, oil, water, steam, installation costs, smart energy controls, heating, cooling, lighting, automatic on-off systems, load controls, upgrading to LED lighting. Just I suppose to underline here, this is only as part of another package as well, so another eligible cost measure. The replacement or upgrade of a more efficient energy system, like a heat pump, like an air water grind source for manufacturing heating processes, a heat recovery system, a small wind and hydro system. This is subject to a feasibility assessment. Equipment over 10 years, so this is the replacement or upgrade. It's like a refrigeration unit, an electric steam boiler, electric oven, industrial dishwasher, an engineering piece of equipment, and then system components upgrades such as speed drives, pumps, fans, condensers, extraction systems, cold room doors. As far as I'm aware, for the time being, there is no other section, but hopefully this will change in the future. In terms of what's an ineligible cost at the minute, it is stuff like solar panels. That is because solar PV, the grant is available under SAI non-domestic microgrid scheme. Biomass boilers, again, for the same reason. Heat pumps, again, for the same reason. And EV batteries, again, for the same reason. SAI are providing financial support for that. In terms of making an application, look, it's a relatively easy process. We've brought a couple, or a good few clients through it in the last, 6 to 7 months since it was announced. First and foremost, chat to Leo, chat to Stephen. They are really pushing this grant. Tell them what you want. Tell them what you need, what you're looking at. Look
Sorry,
at the
Sophie,
online.
that slide just hasn't come through properly on my screen. If you just want to
No
say it again.
problem. Do you see anything on your screen, Stephen?
It's just the two are kind of, no, there we go. Thank you.
But no problem. So discuss with the Leo team. Stephen is there to help. The online form can be found at the localenterprise.ie/energy. A relatively straightforward form, to be perfectly honest. You will be asked to upload your Green for Micro or Green Start or Energy Audit report where the grant need is identified. Essentially what that means is if you're looking to update your, electric oven or refrigeration unit, the need needs to be identified in the Green for Micro, Green for Business report. You need to upload your most recent accounts. You also need a written quote for equipment, and that includes the installation and commissioning costs up to where the cost is €4,999. And for a cost in excess of that, so the 5,000 figure, you will need 3 competitive quotations. We would say submission of application before an expenditure purchase. I think that's still the way it is at the minute, but Stephen, you can jump in if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's the case.
Perfect. Look, we've brought a good few clients through it. It's relatively easy. If you decide to do it, this is something that we kind of touch base on through the Green for Business program as well. We can get you prepped and ready to look at that. Rightio, so that's the energy efficiency and the grant side of things. I kind of want to talk to you just very quickly about, look, what can you actually do essentially? Now, look, I won't go into too much detail, but we have had a good few Donegal clients that have come through it from, opticians and takeaways and a variety of other businesses who've kind of gotten a couple of different things out of it. So look, we had a takeaway. Their primary focus was in the energy that they used. They were looking to essentially look, what are we spending money on? What's our equipment? How do we improve it? We worked that hierarchy essentially, so we reduced where we possibly could. We made individual pieces of equipment more, I suppose, efficient. And then it was a thing of, look, this is costing you money. There is an alternative available to you. So look, they got a fairly decent understanding of where their energy was going. They had an action plan in place, for the low hanging fruit and what their medium and long term goals are. We also got, we identified, look, a particular piece of equipment was particularly energy exhaustive, and we did look what would the I suppose hypothetical benefit be of getting a new piece of equipment or replacing this one. So they were prepped and ready to go for the energy efficiency grant. Then a kind of a different one again. We had an opticians come on board from Donegal this year, so they were looking to say, look, want a holistic view, really, look, what can we do? So they looked at things like energy management and lighting, what can they improve room to room, what their processes were room to room. A big thing for them was they just didn't know what goes anywhere in terms of waste. So it was an entire, I suppose, waste management strategy put into place for them. And then just another one here, just kind of off the wall a little bit, is we did have a laundry, I suppose, service come on board with us. Now they're based in Roscommon, but theirs is like a really, I suppose, intensive program based on, they were looking for a whole load of, they wanted a feasibility study essentially on what they could introduce. So it was looking at stuff like solar PV and rainwater extraction and grey water recycling. So basically, it was a list of things of what that they can introduce, the price associated with each, and what the return of investment was. So I think they saved about, I think it was €2,500 every year, with payback after 5 years. So it was quite a beneficial project to them, and they began to, I suppose, slowly introduce those pieces of equipment. Rowan's going to chat to you a little bit about his, I suppose, specific project now a little bit. Why grow green? Look, there is, I suppose, again, we're going back to finding your motivation. A couple of things, look, increased sales, reduction CO2, cost savings, your corporate social responsibility. Look, climate change is happening and it's going to impact you and you're going to impact on it. Making yourself more resilient is super important. General stuff like improved resource efficiency, and then finally the upcoming legislative change, which we kind of touched on briefly. Now what, in terms of what you do, what we'd say is, look, say hello, access the supports that are available to you. There is an open call for, Lean and Green for Business nationwide. In terms of the Green for Business program, look, it helps small businesses towards becoming more sustainable. So it's run over 2 days or 14 hours, and it's generally split, that is kind of segmented based on the business and what, I suppose, your level of commitment is essentially. Look, the program is very broad. You can do a lot of things under it. I suppose some of the benefits that we've seen is the cost savings, improved resource efficiencies, reduced environmental footprint, improved corporate image, and then that increased resilience to climate change impacts. In terms of what we've done in the past, look, there's loads of things. You can look at green communications and getting that report ready, sustainability statements, getting if you're tendering for work, getting your sustainability policy, your sustainability statement up and ready to go, creating an action plan, getting a carbon calculation, getting a carbon reduction roadmap in front of you, having a look at the resources that you use, and creating a resource efficiency assessment. Look, there is I don't need to, I kind of preach to the choir here, but there is so many micro industries in the country, and it is a great opportunity for you to come on board. There's no cost to you, the business, for doing the Green for Business program. It has been, I suppose, a great program so far, and we've got a lot of, I suppose, the businesses have felt a lot of benefits from doing it. So look, thanks. I've consciously been talking to you about a half an hour. I hope I didn't bore anyone, but that is a very brief overview. I'm going to let you back over to the lads, but I'll be here. I'll be sticking around if anyone has any questions.
Thank you very much, Sophie, for that. That's no, really, really good just to get that level of information and succinctly presented in a short 30-minute slot. I love the energy management hierarchy and the tips around that, and as important as it is on a national and macro level, even for data business, as you've identified, it's about saving those pennies and cents, and how important that is in terms of just absolute cost management where things are at the moment for many businesses. Brilliant to be able to bring those examples across as well, and local and relevant examples, and we'll hear from Ronan very shortly as well. Also, I suppose, in terms of the energy efficiency grant, and I'll go through that application in a little while. I suppose the key thing for me as well is that the consultant can do a lot of the work with the Green for Business program, and whether you're not sure if it's eligible or not, you can apply, and if it's identified, I suppose, fundamentally within the report, you're then you can go forward and get your energy efficiency grant as well, or through SEAI. That the signposting and the support is there. I just see there's one question coming in from Alessandro. He's opening a new surf school, and he would like to buy a neoprene-free wetsuit. Alessandro, that wouldn't be covered within the energy efficiency grant. Potentially there is microfinance support for something like this. So if you want to, I can send out information after. I'll be sending a recording of this. If you want to get in touch afterwards, I can tell you about potential support for that. But it wouldn't be with this with the energy efficiency grant. It wouldn't be within the remit of this. Thank you. So just before I get Ronan on board, I'm going to share a world exclusive of Ronan's testimonial video. So a little bit of work he done on a national level in terms of the energy efficiency grant. So I'm going to share sound here. Hope everybody can hear this okay.
One of the most enjoyable things in Max Daily is we are in the heart of Letterkenny. A lot of the locals are in every day, and you know them by name, they know you by name. There's a great friendship, even more than customer based. The thing I love about the business is every day is a different challenge. One of the main challenges we faced last year was the rise in electricity. Our bills went up 3 times what they previously were. We had to adapt to that very quickly to make our business remain viable. Contacted our local enterprise office in Letterkenny, who informed us that we could qualify for the Green for Business audit. We were grateful to get onto that audit, and we got a consultant in who went through every aspect of Max Daily, from the high users to the lighting to the solar panels, even down to fridges, what times they're on it, starting at, ovens, what time they're starting at, what time they're stopping at. It was a very in-detail audit. Following on from the Green for Business programme, we realised that we qualified for the energy efficiency grant. At first, immediately we changed the fridges and freezers, they were higher users, and we changed the ovens. Moving on to the energy efficiency grant was a great help in actually solving the problem, but we had to find out the problem first, which was done by the audit. On the back of the whole process, our electricity bills have reduced by 30%. our kilowatt usage is down about 6,000 kilowatts every 2 months, and the value of that there is down about 3,000 to 4,000 every 2 months. That's the difference between a business being viable and a business not being viable in simple terms. From the Green for Business and from the Energy Efficiency Grant, you see how targeted approach can save your business a lot of money very quickly, and how the application process, how the reps that are out in local enterprise office make it so easy, and they're just at the end of the phone. It's very important for us at Max Daily to be sustainable, because we've been here for the last 30 years and I would like to be here for the next 30.
I'll now pass you over to the man himself for Forget Killian Murphy and Oppenheimer. We have Ronan McIntyre online today. So, Ronan, over to you.
I don't know if I could do it all again. Would I go through with a grant, with a grant with a video? I'm only joking. It was good. It was good. How are you, folks? Good morning. My name's Ronan McIntyre from Max Daily in Letterkenny. We're a coffee shop, a small bakery, and we have a convenience shop also. We have 37 staff. Now, Sophie covered the whole grant process, everything about it, so I'll just give you my experience. So in summer 2022, our electricity rates came in, and it was 3 times our bill. So we could do nothing about the rates this time, so we had to look into the usage. I contacted the local enterprise office and I asked them actually, first of all, for a lean program and to look into our whole business, but they told me that there was a green business grant. So, you hear me all right, Stephen?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So I says, okay, we'll go with that there. The auditor consultant was appointed and came in there, but I think spent 2 days in our business. Went through everything from fridge to staff to the high users to the low users to lighting. Very, very in-depth audit. I never thought that by the end of the day he was able to tell me a lot. But when the whole thing came back anyway, we were able to see the high users and the small users. He had what could be changed easy, what there was a big cost on. Following on like that, and the information was there really, so we could act like, everything was on solar panels to equipment to things. The first thing was our fridges and freezers were just colossal, so right away we looked into that there. But one of the things we never thought of actually, which is the ovens. So in this audit, he actually asked how long an oven would be on, how long maybe the lights would be on, how long. So it looked out that our oven, which is 25 years old, 7 days a week, 9 hours a day, was one of our biggest users, and it was colossal what it was actually using, to be honest. The fridge and freezers were first and second, third was the oven. So we looked into the fridge and freezers. They were done right away. We didn't even had to act on them. And then the energy efficiency grant just was launched, and we looked into the ovens. And I think I contacted Stephen. Then was the first contact with Stephen. He says, "Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that'll work." So back to the audit. All the information was in the audit from the consultant. Application was emailed on to me. Started the application, back to the audit. It was kind of streamlined. It's probably more, the consultant would be more helpful now, I would say. So it's probably easier to do the application. So when we went on then, we worked out that the new ovens would be about 25 to 30% easier run. And the payback with the grant would be 3 to 4 years. So we worked on getting the ovens, getting the application, got it over the line, but the ovens going. But in the report, and it's really the best thing I ever done was the audit, the consultancy. Even if you don't go through the energy efficiency grant, get the audit done, because Green for Business, because one of the biggest things was for us was staff awareness. the fella, he told us make sure you get staff awareness, which was easy because all our staff were getting big electricity bills at home too. So they were used to turning off lights, turning off ovens, turning off. So that was one. We put on a staff awareness plan. Solar panels we did through the SEA, came out of that audit. It told us exactly how much was saved, exactly. The ovens, the fridges, but after everything was done, our full electricity is down about 25-30%, depending on times of years. But out of that audit, I would say we're saving, because the electricity rate's still high for now and looks like it will be, say we're saving probably 20-30,000 a year, the minute. So I think if electricity drops, it'll be less, but I don't think it's dropping. But I would definitely, if there's anybody on here today, I would get them to get the audit done, and then you'll see exactly what grant and if it's payback and what the payback is, and then you can, I would say, more than likely, you'll move on to the energy efficiency grant and replace whatever has to be replaced. That's really mine in a nutshell, folks. I think the application is well covered, and Stephen's at the end of the phone. Don't hesitate to ring me; great help to me. So, I appreciate. That's why I went on on the film or made a movie with them for the day. So, it was a testament to Stephen. So, any business, do the audit, get on to Stephen, and it will definitely save you money. Thanks, Stephen. Is there anything else I must, maybe, Stephen? Or?
No, that's perfect, Ronan. Does anyone have any questions? You can unmute yourself, or you can put it in the chat box if anybody has anything for Ronan. Feel free to do so.
I will type in there, but it went clearly. So am I right in saying that you can get the audit done without actually doing the applications? Is that what Ronan's saying?
So, Tracy, the first thing is the Green for Business, and I'll go through the application now in a moment. That's the first step. So you apply for that. I'll go through that. Typically, if you have your bills and your turnover figures to hand, you'll be able to get that application in about 10 or 15 minutes. I'll talk to it in a little minute. That's the first step. You do the Green for Business, you get your report afterwards, equipment is identified, and then that brings you on, that makes you essentially, that unlocks the eligibility of the energy efficiency grant. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for Ronan? No. Just a couple of observations for myself, Ronan. I know I love the I suppose just the hard facts, the stats that you have there in terms of it, because I know sometimes with green the challenge can be, what will the impact be or the benefit be for my business? Because like ultimately I know business people are busy, and money is a key consideration, and the fact that you're able to quantify the reduction in something like an energy bill for a business like yourself, where energy usage is significant, that's massive. I love as well the staff awareness plan and making everybody aware of that, and even bringing that into their home lives as well. And it's, having that as it was front of mind is so important, and that's something we've seen from a number of other Green for Business programs as well, where the staff awareness plan was really, really critical in terms of just getting everybody on board and ultimately helping to reduce their cost and reduce their carbon footprint. So with what I'll do now is I'll briefly go through the application form for, first of all, the Green for Business. So as I mentioned just a little while ago, that the first step in terms of this is the Green for Business. I know that some of you may have done that already, but I'll just share my screen quickly. So can everybody see that okay? Yeah, just go into.
Yes, we can, Steve.
Yeah, thanks. So Green for Business, so localenterprise.ie/Donegal. There's a little bit more information here, more case studies, and then I suppose the important one, how to apply, or either or, and you click on the application form. Beforehand, you need to register for the submit system. It's a little bit like signing up for a new email address, so it's not too arduous in terms of that first step. You then, as I said in the first instance, create the account. You then log in. So here is one I've made earlier. You go through. So there's a couple of different questions. So as Sophie briefly mentioned in terms of eligibility, so Green for Business is particularly broad. So if you have under 50 employees, and typically if you're not a current client of another enterprise agency, be it Enterprise Ireland or Uders na Gaeltacht, that you will be eligible for this. And then again, it just gives a little bit more information in terms of that, and in terms of things like de minimis as well. So essentially, if you have received less than 300,000 euros of state aid over the last 3 years, so again, typically that will be for most people. Going into the application itself, so initial question around FOI and GDPR compliance. These are multiple choice or drop down questions. They aren't essentially too arduous. How did you hear about the support? A little bit of details about yourself and your contact details, etc. About the business itself, trading name, address, air code, and so on. Again, most of this information, most businesses, I think, should probably have to hand. You then go down into a brief description, so a little bit about what you do, when you started trading, the structure of the business then, and again, look, you've got drop down menus here. Does your company export? The sectors in which you're active, again, drop down menus, number of employees and turnover. So again, it's handy if you are filling this out to have these numbers to hand. Again, most businesses should have that information together. Then in terms of the priority, in terms of what you're looking at to achieve as part of this. Again, if you have a clear area and specifically what it is, that may make it easier. But again, to Sophie's point earlier, it can be quite a broad summary. It's 2 days consultancy. Your current sustainability plan and how the program will support you. That question might throw a lot of people, particularly if you're coming into this. This is not essential. If you have a sustainability plan, boolabus to you, but you don't have to. That's not a mandatory requirement at this point. The first step for many is getting this application in for the Green for Business program. You can put in a little bit of information about that, or in terms of just an honest upfront look. This is the first step towards it. We want to do A, B, and C. We want to look at reducing our electricity costs, or we want to improve our opportunities or explore the potential for renewable energy, whatever that may be. How is energy consumption being monitored currently? If you have smart meters in place, or whatever that might look like. And then in terms of details of the carbon footprint within your organization, again, that if you have your electricity bills to hand, that can help in terms of starting this process as well. You've got the toolkit there that will help you with that. Final question there in terms of follow-up communications. And then, as I said, if you have the sustainability plan, you can upload it, declaration, and then submit, and off you go. So look, again, there's 18 or 19 questions. Most of those are drop down. In my opinion, it's not too arduous a process. The key, I suppose, is to have your turnover figures, have your electricity bills to hand, so you can calculate give a rough estimate in terms of what the carbon footprint looks like at the moment. I'll then briefly go into the energy efficiency grant. I know Sophie has covered that. We've just a couple more minutes here. So at this point, conscious that I went through that reasonably quickly, but does anybody have any questions in terms of the Green for Business application? No.
Yes, Stephen, I do.
Yeah.
That's all right. Can
Yes,
you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, because as you know, we have an enterprise centre here, so we
Yes.
obviously have our own office within the enterprise centre, but we
Yes.
also have a number of tenants.
Yeah.
So we're just saying, if we were applying, we can't give you the rating of the building, because obviously they pay their own electricity bills.
Yes.
So we can only give what we have ourselves.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Or
look, some information, Mary, is better than none. And then as part of the Green for Business program as well, you can, I suppose, talk through that with the consultant as well. They're the experts in that field. Sophie, you might actually have.
Yeah, look, it's fairly common. People rent offices and office spaces all the time, so I wouldn't let that stop you at all. We can chat about There is, if you are concerned about your carbon footprint, there is a specific framework that you can calculate it based on X kilometre, X hours working from home, X office size. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that. And you, if you have it for the application, but I think you can omit it if you don't have it at hand. Stephen, do you?
Pardon?
The application for the Green for Business, you can omit that carbon footprint, or do you have to pop it in?
Yeah, they ask you to put it in, but that's based on, as I said, your current electricity bills and so on as well.
Okay.
So, most
All
businesses
right.
have them, and it's a kind of a broad estimate in terms of calculator.
That's
So again,
fine.
Mary, if you have your bill and you do the calculation based on that.
Yeah, because obviously we would be looking at the whole building as we own the building,
Mhm.
but we're only in one room of it ourselves, and so we would be looking to improve the whole building. So that's okay if we can. Anyway, if we're stuck, we can call you.
Absolutely. You know where I am.
Busters. That's great. Thanks.
No
Can
problem.
I ask a
Sure.
question? Apologies. Does this also cover, let's say, reduction of waste? So we're working in the upcycling of side streams and waste streams from the drinks industry and the food industry. So some of our clients would be interested in that. Would this also cover kind of like an assessment of their waste stream production and how to minimize it?
Short answer is absolutely yes, it would. I don't know if, Sophia, if you have any specific examples of business. I know there's one where you've worked even within Donegal on waste reduction as well. So yes, certainly that would be part of the scope.
It's very much case by case, but it fits within the scope of the project first and foremost. So yes, you're still applicable for it.
So we're an Enterprise Ireland HPSU, but the customers or the clients that we deal with could be potentially interested in their agri-food companies that have side streams and waste streams. So we would like to kind of like steer them towards such programs. So
absolutely.
So it does cover this, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, waste is energy. 60% of the projects that kind of come on board, which is fair considering the cost and the time of year that we're at. Next is waste. The other one from there is practice and policy, and then communication. So it's something that's covered, quite a lot. So yeah, if they're eligible for it, if they meet the other criteria, then they're fine. I'd say send them our way.
Okay, I've linked into you, Sophie. Okay.
Perfect. Great.
Right.
Perfect. I'm conscious of time here, so if anybody has a couple more minutes, I'll just go into the energy efficiency grant application. So following on from the completion of your Green for Business program, you will have your report afterwards, and then that, I suppose, unlocks the opportunity then once a specific piece of equipment or kit has been identified, you go into your energy efficiency application. So again, a similar process, you will need to be registered on. So just here again, so into localenterprise.ie again, /Donegal, energy efficiency under the financial supports tab. Click to apply. Click here. And then you go into here and going through the questions. So again, look, it's a reasonably similar format in terms of the information. So again, I know you will have included some of this information in your initial Green for Business or potential other supports. Again, you will be required to put it in again. A little bit of information around the business and how it operates, when the business commenced, structure, export question, and again, a lot of these being dropped down. Because you are getting stated directly with this support, there are a little bit more requirements. So the employment and turnover numbers, you will also be required to upload your most recent accounts. So again, to, I suppose, show and demonstrate that you have exceeded over 30,000 euros in terms of turnover and you have been trading for at least 6 months. Then a little bit of information in terms of how you're seeking funding. A lot of the information you've got from your initial Green for Business program and the report can be within that and can be extracted from that. Then in terms of the specific area, so as Sophie outlined earlier, so in terms of these are the eligible supports, so it must fall into one of these areas. again, your consultant through the Green for Business program will be able to identify if it's within scope and what are these, what parameters from this. Costs around this in terms of that. So again, the maximum grant is 5,000. If the cost, or if the grant that you're seeking is under 5,000, it's one quote. If it's over 5,000, you will require 3 quotes. And then in terms of just agree to reporting activity, outline the business's plan. So a lot of that information will be there from the Green for Business report, as with the energy consumption, and then the carbon footprint as well. Uploading then in terms of, so you have your Green for Business program, quotations where applicable, the sustainability plan, which you will have worked on from the Green for Business, and probably not all that often, but if you are looking at stuff like wind turbine and hydro generations, which one is actually in the pipeline at the moment, you would be required to upload that, and you have your declaration, you submit, and that's the process then in terms of the energy efficiency. So not too dissimilar, I suppose, in terms of the Green for Business. In terms of that, there's just the addition in terms of the accounts, and that's that. So if anybody has any final comments, please do feel free to unmute yourself and ask.
How long is this open for, Stephen?
And this is a pilot program at the moment, Mary, but I would imagine it will be open for the foreseeable future. So that we haven't been given any indication that this is going to close, given the importance, I suppose, on a global level, not just on a national level, in terms of green and sustainability. I would imagine it'll be open for at least the rest of the year and beyond.
So we don't need to be rushing away to do it just straight away, the Green for Business one, or
I would encourage you to get the application as soon as you can, Mary, because
okay.
Again, it can even help just to give the tips in terms of reduction of your costs. You know, the sooner you can start that process, the better. Also, I suppose you have to be. I know there's a lot of competing priorities in your organization. So once you have the time to commit to it, and hopefully the resource to implement it, that's the key thing. But look, I would encourage you to get the application in as soon as you can.
That's grand. Okay, thanks a million. Listen, we have to leave. Okay, so thanks a million.
No problem. I think has anybody any other questions? Nope. Well, look, I'd just like to thank you all for your attendance today. Thank Sophie and Ronan very much for their own contributions. I have this session recorded. I'll send a recording out to everybody for anything you may have missed. This will have my contact details as well, so feel free to get in touch if you have any further questions.
I'll send across a PDF version of the presentation as well, just to have to hand.
Great. Thanks, Sophie.
Super.
Thank you all very much. Cheers.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Bye, folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.